The small Somerset town of Glastonbury, like its sister centre the Hebridean Isle of Iona, has enjoyed a celebrity status for some time now. Still a mecca for those seeking spiritual insight, magic or otherworldly dimensionality and, of course, host to the most famous and enduring music festival of them all. So how did it all come about, this self-nominating of exceptionalness, a special place in England above most all others ad namid sense 160 by 600 blue? Part of the answer lies with those naughty monks of the abbey who in 1191 declared that they had found the bones of King Arthur and his Queen Guinevere, or phonetic Queen of Air as the alchemical phonetic of the Dan Green language prefer to call her. Given that these figures are more fantasy than real, we can confidently surmise that they didn't really find such bones at all, but it didn't stop them relocating and burying them in the abbey's chancery in 1278 in front of reigning and certainly for real King Edward and his Queen Eleanor at the time. This little incident added to the forthcoming consolidation of Grail romance that was bolstered by equal assertions that no less than Jesus' uncle Joseph he of Arimathea had arrived at Glastonbury bringing with him the Holy Thorn legend upon Weary Owl Hill. People, apparently, aren't all weary of this tale. Only recently Glastonbury Abbey have now added to their tourist literature that legend says Joseph also brought the youngster Jesus here and they built an old wattle church now buried underneath the existing Mary Chapel. Tying in anything loosely Jesus-like with Arthur, possibly greedily claiming both legendary figures, spawned the Grail stuff even more and so, hey presto, Glastonbury conceals the Grail, no less, down Chalice Well. Well, many thousands of us have popped our head down there in the hope that it could be that simple. No Grail. Obviously, not that simple. Glastonbury Abbey claims both Jesus and King Arthur. Many people are unaware of a fine book that was written in 1932 by a fellow called John Cooper Powys, 18,721,963, a Derbyshire-born author and lecturer who passed away before Glastonbury really took off big time. The book was called A Glastonbury Romance and for many hits the nail on the head as valid and timelessly today as it did then. Described as an epic novel of terrific cumulative force and lyrical intensity, the work weaving the ancient with the modern probes the effect of this mystical and spiritual history upon the residents of the town. The longest undivided novel in English, the 1120 pages book muses over the possibilities upon the table, not Arthur's Round One entirely, that Glastonbury could become a place of pilgrimage just as easily an experimental socialist commune, or simpler still, a modern industrial town. Well, today it appears to be a nation divided, with standardized Christians on the one hand and the New Age, surely old age by now, mystics. It certainly reaps the tourist benefits from either side, with a historical Jesus figure stuck in the middle owing to Glastonbury being the first point of Christianity in England and, of course, the lads' cups are sought after by those on a quest. John Mickle's 1972 book City of Revelation mapping out the sacred geometry of Glastonbury Abbey seemed to contribute to both camps. A Glastonbury Romance. Back in 1970 the first ever Glasto festival only drew 1,500 attendants, but today it draws some 180,000 over 3 days. Praise the endurance of farmer Michael Eavis, who once declared during the 90s that he made a 3 meters clear profit each year. Unavoidably, the festival and its original association with travelers and hippies and their drug habits have left a scar in the town, and modern-day sociology will bear out that it harbors more than its fair share of drug addicts and alcoholics. A lot of the hippies stayed and still stay. It reminds one a little of how in 1978 hordes of Scotland football fans went to the World Cup in Argentina and, running out of money, simply didn't come back, hence the abundance of Scottish surnames in many families in towns near Cordoba. There is another facet and feature caught up in the tug-of-war of Christianity and the mystical within Glastonbury, with both sides vying for its ownership, and it is that pyramidal-shaped natural hill, the Tor, which also has a dependency on legend and myth for its celebrity status. Modern-day magicians and pagans complicate things even a bit further by introducing a schism amongst their occultists, informing us that the energy harnessed upon the Tor can be utilized for either good or bad. You can just imagine a patient line of queuing and odd sorcerers awaiting their turn. It's equally funny and serious then, in this respect, when in 2005, a Dalek, those lunatic pepper-pot enemy of the time-traveling fictional Doctor Who, was stolen from an exhibition staged at nearby Wookiee Hole Caves and deposited at the top of the Tor as if to claim it as its territory on behalf of malefaction. A manifestation brought about by the collective unconscious, perhaps the negative Tor, a cosmic icon, lays claim. 2 years later the south face of the tower was covered in paint and graffiti by sympathizers of the voluntary-run organization Fathers for Justice. Negativity struck again when in 2010 the Holy Thorn was vandalized, hacked down leaving only its roots, the most likely culprits acting on behalf of those owed money by the owner of the land upon which the thorn bloomed, having been sent to prison bankrupt, owing the same figure as Michael Eavis' annual profit. Another deficit came the following April when the Glastonbury Anglican annual pilgrimage, whereby 2,000 visitors ascend the Tor, and has been running since 1924, was scrapped due to soaring petrol costs, its future now in doubt. High up on the Tor stands the Christian claim to the hill, the tower, the remnants of a St. Michael's church destroyed by an earthquake in 1275, the symbol of the Christian Prince of Peace meant to supplant all previous pagan, and earlier Druidic, ownership of their own sacred hill. Should we ask, would the Christian God have destroyed his own church by his own act? Oh well. The most famous legend concerning the Tor, upon whom many visitors have had a variety of weird experiences, is that in its fairy hill aspect it conceals the entrance to the underworld kingdom of Gwyn ap Nudd, this beginning to touch on the hypothesis that Glastonbury is dimensional, which will please the many who claim UFO sightings there, including one previous mayor of the town who one night witnessed what he himself called a spaceship when he saw a reddish-orange light appear above the Tor before sinking into the summit, more akin fairy activity than UFO. However, the suggestion that the Gwyn ap Nudd legend is a reminiscence of a long-forgotten potential dimensional opening based on the hill, currently referred to as a portal, may indeed be Glastonbury's best bet for a genuine claim of the paranormal. With this is mind, or possibly mind, although any such portal would be ancient. An interesting photo was taken only 5 years back by a local resident on one of his many daily walks. Glastonbury Tor, entrance to another dimension. On February 2007 at precisely 4:33 p.m. on a bright day, Mike Chenery was walking up Orchard Lane when his attention was drawn to the fact that all the singing birds that were about had suddenly stopped their song. This stillness and suspension is reminiscent of what occurs at the time of a solar eclipse when birds become temporarily disorientated. He was then at a gate that provides a vantage point view of one of the unarched sides of the tower. Casually looking up at the top of the desolate Tor, he saw a dazzling white something that, in his own words, glided a short distance from within the tower. At first it showed itself as linear, long and very narrow, but then moved its perspective to face his direction as he stood watching it from his distance, and in doing so it widened, rather like at first being a door seen sideways on and then full frontal. As he always carries a camera with him on his regular and numerous jaunts and excursions, he only just found the time to take a picture on his digital camera, and then the apparition that had only lasted seconds simply popped off. Kinda critics will naturally say that the photo shows some blemish associated either internally or externally with his camera. Harsh cynics living in the left brain hemisphere all their life will and have inevitably harangued him with cries of Photoshop. The photograph nevertheless remains intriguingly genuine and has never been exposed as fake. It wouldn't be either, if by absolute chance and serendipity, Mike has been presented with an authentic pic of a portal briefly opening, and it is as simple as that. Check out Is the Spectre on Glastonbury Tor on YouTube. A portal opens alongside enlargement. Copyright Mike Chenery. 1 Have related some of my own tour experiences in an earlier World Mysteries feature. Glastonbury Tour did a portal open on 260,207 that date back as far as 1984, where upon my first ascension, at 11:30 at night October 30th, I was met within moments with a silent silver flash only feet above my head, soon after followed by a brief bombardment on each slope by what I can best describe as grey ping-pong balls. I have visited the Tor many times since, in all seasons and all times of day, but from 2005 to 2011 I found myself unable to ascend beyond the specific point, actually stuck and unable to go any further, filled with an immense and unaccountable fear wanting me to turn back, this being perhaps the most puzzling episode of my life to date. In July 2010 a lady correspondent sent me a still night image taken from the webcam which defies cries of conventional camera flair to show a strange insignia at precisely the spot I would get stuck, the correspondent unaware of it being my troublesome location. The step where Dan Green was not allowed to progress in 2011 all had returned to normal for me, and I could ascend the slope without getting stuck or filling with fear, as once before, but not before another strange experience. For years prior I had been attempting to have the unlikely situation of a butterfly land naturally on the palm of my hand. Whenever one flew nearby I would stick the palm of my left hand out and hope for the best. Not surprisingly, nothing ever happened. However, it was last year when I was some 20 miles away from the Glastonbury and walking my Springer Spaniel along a country lane at 8:20 a.m, when one of the lovely creatures flew out of a hedge, and so customarily, I stuck out my hand. This time it happened and the butterfly was still sitting there some 4 minutes later when I actually had to scoot it off to reclaim both hands required by my dog walking duty. A strange symbol appears where Dan Green got stuck. Click to enlarge the story. Next moves on to my tour visit the following day. Finding myself a private area and slope out of sight from anyone else, as a true investigator of all possibilities, I attempted addressing the consciousness of the tour and put out a request regarding information about whether there was indeed a linear portal here, as possibly photographed by Mike Chenery. I asked the tour if it would respond in any fashion it may like to exude from itself by way of a reply. Well, if you believe in such realities, then perhaps reality is what you make it and matter is an illusion created by will and therefore susceptible to alteration at the behest of its creator, quantum entanglement theory and all. I proceeded about my visit, which included the momentous return of my being able to ascend the tour without getting stuck held in an individual force field at the same point that had inexplicably held me back and filled me with fear for the last consecutive 6 years. As I was leaving, having already marched back down the ascension and arrived at the turnstile way below the foot of the tour, I suddenly decided, well, at least I thought I had made the decision, to turn around and ascend one more time, just to be absolutely certain that I was able to move past the point that had once held me captive. Sure enough I could, but as I approached the tour summit I could see a young female who appeared to be seeking my attention. Now in all my years of tour visits I have never engaged in conversation with this soul whilst there, but she quickly approached me asking in her broken English what I was carrying in my right hand. Well, I wasn't carrying anything, at least as far as the physical I could see, although I thought back to the butterfly encounter the previous day with my left hand. The foreign lady, apologetic for the bizarre message she had to convey to a total stranger, told me that I was to know that both my hands are different. Having listened respectfully, I was about to leave when I did something I have never done previously. I asked, "And your name is?" "My name is Linear, probable spelling," she replied. Linear. The same sounding linear, the very descriptive word I had chosen to describe any liable portal. Am I to believe that the tour had offered me a reply, and what appears to be a confirmatory one at that I am left with the thought that this entire meeting had already been destined and that the component parts and engineering that had gone into it meant my collective unconscious initially decided to ask a question, being called back up the tour when I had officially left it, and to meet a strategically positioned and awaiting foreign visitor with a specific name who felt embarrassed to convey a psychic message. Crazy stuff by conventional thought, but vindicatory by quantum entanglement. On my 2012 visit to the tour, known as Avalon at the Isle of Apples, I was inspired to carry a solitary apple to the summit, later realizing that if we view apple as a phonetic APL, then APL plus tour makes the anagram portal electromagnetic field, or blurred insector bird Glastonbury tour, in a world where photographic evidence is now furiously and casually challenged, as well as the cherry pick. Maybe you saw another controversial effort snapped by Glastonbury businesswomen Kath Gray and Tracy Jones whilst walking their dogs at the foot of the tour in August 2010, in which a highly unusual and still unexplained dark mass was to be seen moving behind the tower at the tour, possibly freak evidence of an electromagnetic field. Alternatively, a fast-moving insector bird is the preference of the mundane. Neither proved conclusively. Another supporter of the portal on the tour hypothesis is another local resident, Nicholas R. Mann, author of the excellent Energy Secrets of Glastonbury Tour, who argues for a Avalonian soul portal, an energy gateway for incoming and outgoing souls brought about by the tour's watery aquifer dynamics and complex vortices of energy. Physicist John Michael Mellon, Queen's University Belfast, brings to our attention the theory of such naturally forming spiraling vortices, or scalar energy, many more times more powerful than nuclear energy, evident throughout all of nature and in space, that could act as wormholes as stargates in miniature. Another affirmative from the realm of physics, this time the late Professor John Wheeler of Princeton University, New Jersey, suggests the size of wormholes that exist or only open for a prescribed and limited period are mini black holes blinking in and out of spatial geometry, and need only be a gigafraction of a square inch, the equivalent of the number 1 followed by 33 zeros, preceded by a decimal point. Nighttime portal activity. Adding to the excitement is the dedication afforded us by Swedish psychic Raven Jansson from her small town of Söderhamn, who since early 2010 has been regularly tipped off by psychic means of late-night dimensional activity that will often occur undetected on the tour. From her Swedish home she knows when to watch on the 24-hour Check It Live Glastonbury webcam, and sure enough, activity has occurred as expected. Those left-brain cynics will be quick to dismiss all such activity as the horseplay of drunken and mischievous human agency, but would it be sensible to accept she is being psychically tipped off simply to watch otherwise undetected activity carried out by bored locals? Some of Raven's observations are shared on YouTube. Search for the Tor spirits, UFO and related others. Maybe we should forget both Arthur and Jesus and their uncertain history for a while, and think about what if there is a portal at the top of that famous, and therefore justifiably so, hill. At least we can cite our rapidly increasing knowledge in another field, that of quantum mechanics, as a liable hope for understanding the mechanics of present mystery. Artist's impression of Tor UFO portal. Digital light at Tor portal activity. Copyright only photos. Copyright 2012 Dan Green, presented with permission of the author. YouTube, The Spectre on Glastonbury Tor pics. Copyright courtesy of Mike Chenery. Subject related links. Glastonbury Tor. Did the portal open on 260,207? More articles by Dan Green.